necessarily in agreement on that point. Certainly they can opt for that. There's never been any disagreement about that.
Okay, but if the city council gets together to discuss, the majority of the city council gets together to discuss budget, it needs to be done.
We respectfully disagree with that opinion. We think that the advisory opinion issued by the Committee on Corporate Government has been clarified, such that it's now clear that political caucusing by members of the majority on any topic whatsoever is exempted from the open meetings law. That's consistent with the Almonte versus City of Long Beach decision.
And she wrote you back about Buffalo. So city council members, if you're a registered Democrat, raise your hand.
You know,
I don't have to poll us.
Yeah.
All right, every single city council member is of the same exact
Right.
party, so you cannot politically caucus.
Well, I understand that's the committee's view. However, that's based on one Supreme Court decision in Erie County. That's it. That is not arguing here. It's factually distinguishable. And frankly, we think that the court simply got it wrong. So either way.
So you are going to advise your clients in the city council that they should go against the state's authority on open meeting
No,
law.
you have to understand something about the Committee on Open Government. It is an advisory opinion. We've seen courts completely disregard those advisory opinions in several of our federal
Right, but
cases.
the one court ruling on this is a complete agreement.
So until there's an actual fighting case in this jurisdiction, that's not the law. Is that simple?
Thank you, Mr. McNally. Yes, sir.
This is gonna go to midnight. Probably. These things. This.
Name and address for the record, sir.
Sure. My name is Brian Keller, and I used to live at 636 Westchester, and now I'm renting.
My name's Don Frank.
I'm one of your tax casualties, and that's okay. My wife's back there. We're retired. And you're right, the housing market is there, but if you don't think the tax increases and the financial stability of Long Beach was it a bargaining chip in those negotiations, you're misguided. We raised 3 lovely children in Long Beach. They're all in their 30s, and not one of them can afford to live in Long Beach. That is a tragedy and a travesty. Your children that you raised in this town can't even afford to live here. You're looking for Manhattanites to come down to the beach where you're right. As a marketing chip, yeah, we're 45 minutes from Broadway. You're right. But I'm a little bit upset. And more with your predecessors than anybody else. If Jack was here, I'd like to have his hide nailed to a barn door, to tell you the truth. And not only that, he got a bonus on the way out, and that's worse. So, I know it's gonna go through. There's nothing, I feel sorry for the people that bought the house. They're a young couple with a young child, and they're gonna get banged right away. Welcome to reality, and welcome to Long Beach. And I love this town. I love the beach. I'm an ocean swimmer. I run ocean swimming events. But I gotta tell you, the leadership in this country, in this state, and in this town, I don't know what to say except that I'm extremely disappointed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else care to speak about the budget presentation? Yes, Mr. Lester.
Thank you, Roy Lester, Long Beach.
Thank you.
Just want to bring out a quote. The Office of the State Comptroller's Office found that, quote, "The city did not adopt realistic budgets or take necessary actions to maintain the city's financial stability." You know when that's from? 2013. Here we are 6 years later. What's changed? We're under more fiscal stress. We owe more money, and now you're proposing a budget that you say isn't going to cover everything. We're short, we're borrowing again. To balance our budget, we're borrowing again. Now tonight you're proposing a 7.9% increase. I know you're probably, it's election year, it'll come down, I'm sure about that. But it's still an increase, and it's still, you're gonna vote tonight to pierce the cap. Now, I know you guys talk about, well, it's cyclical, and every once in a while you need a big bump, and the taxes are gonna go way up. Well, guess what? I have a little experience with taxing, and you constantly are saying how the school district has most of the taxes here. Well, you know what? The school district doesn't pierce the cap, and they haven't for years. And they don't have big 25% bumps, or 8.3% bumps, or 7.9% bumps. They look at things for the future. They plan for the future. I'm looking at this budget, and there's really no planning for the future. You know what? We have a $50 million judgment already against us, not counting the interest, not counting the interest. There's not one penny in here, not one penny towards that contingency. But it's gonna come, sooner or later, it's going to come. Even if we settle it, even if it's only 10 million, it's still going to come. We're also being sued by Oxstar. I don't think they're gonna win, but there's no contingency here. We have about 600,000 for the judgment, which is appropriate for the little judgments. But we're talking about big judgments. But I also have a question. When you look at the last year's 8.3%, and then you look at the audit, and the audit, let me quote it, the adopted budget for the year beginning includes a $3,759,368 increase in real property taxes in the general fund. This change equates to a 7.25% increase, which exceeds the tax cap law. So that's basically from your audit. So the 7.9 could really mean 9.9. I asked this question a while ago, of course I never got an answer. But I don't understand why the audit's saying it's one thing and you guys are saying it's something else. Now, you say you're implementing managerial control on overtime. Unbelievable. Now you're implementing managerial control? Now? What's happened all these years?
That's your time, Mr. Lester. I'll just ask Christine Eisenhower to speak to the audit increase versus the budget increase. Do you know what Mr. Lester is referring to?
Which order, which increases, I don't believe this is, I don't believe it's 2020, which audit and which fiscal year.
The last audit, did you look at the last audit?
But it's not for this budget.
No, it's not for this budget. 8.3 was last year.
8.3 was the residential tax rate increase.
Oh, so we're not talking residential, we're not talking about the single families?
No, the audit is for the whole tax levy versus the 8.3, which is for tax rate of homeowners.
So when you're talking about taxes, and if you look at the taxes in your own budget, the taxes are going up 12.2%, but that's tax revenue. I agree. What taxes are we talking about? Is somebody else coming in and paying taxes?
Well, again, we're talking about the residential tax rate, there is still commercial taxes, there's also special assessments, and prorated, it all rolls into the tax levy.
So when this year's budget, which has a 12.2% increase.
No,
I'm sorry,
on the levy, yes, but not to the individual homes.
I'm sorry, can you look at page 44? And where it says to be raised by taxes, proposed 45,388,541. And last year was revised at 40,452,337. That's a 12.2% increase. So
On the levy.
On the levy, I'm sorry.
on the amount, yes, on the amount raised by taxes.
So that-
That's 12% increase.
But it's disingenuous to attribute that to the homeowners. Yes, Mr. Gusler.
Good evening, Angela, sir. Good evening, Jay Gus, Long Beach. If I may, I think I can summarize Mr. Activity's plan to attack our current fiscal situation as large tax increase, promote overdevelopment, fine residents over trivial offenses, and cut nothing. That's not the way that you balance your budget. The city has a problem on its management side. very top end. You just hired another assistant city manager to $248 an hour. You multiply that by 2,000 hours work a year, it's about $98,000 salary. I don't understand it. I don't get the need for it. You know, one of the complaints from Mr. Agtisi was that we're stuck with exorbitant personnel costs, and he basically laid that at the feet of his union workforce and others to whom the city has contractual obligations, and of course, his favorite whipping boy, the Taylor Law. But none of these tie your hands with regard to your exempt management employees who have been getting raises despite the city having no obligation to give them. We're at a time of fiscal crisis. This is not the time to give out raises that the city is not obligated to give. Second, hospitals. In the city's exemption impact report, I've mentioned this before, the hospital property, one of the exemptions listed in your impact report is $8,930,028 to a hospital. We haven't had a hospital in this town since Sandy, so why are they still being given free rides and taxes on fast track property sales when they're not providing a hospital service to the community? Likewise, the Howell property is sitting there dormant for a long time now. It's no longer serving as a school. I don't know why they should be skating. The city should, if the city was to collect taxes on those two parcels alone,
They're paying
there is no increase.
They're paying taxes.
Not what they should. Regarding the CMA guys, I'm sure they're gonna be no different than the ICMA. I'm sure you guys are gonna tell them what you want them to tell you, including your report, and they're gonna give you that. Bottom line, when any expert that you hire is garbage in, garbage out. They're only gonna be able to work with what you guys give them. And they're at the mercy of the city's willingness to be forthcoming, and that's something that we know this administration is not. Mr. Agtisi continues to refuse to disclose an illegal employment agreement despite multiple requests from multiple different people in multiple different scenarios. So why should we have any confidence that the city is going to be honest with the CMA? They can't do it if you guys are going to give them unreliable information to do it with. Not that I have any confidence that they're not going to be doing your bidding anyway.
I would just like to address this myth of a top-heavy administration. In the early 2000s, there was over 28 exempt employees. Right now in the city of Long Beach, there's 14 exempt employees, 14 of which are attorneys. So that leaves us 10. No, I'm sorry. 14 exempt employees, 4 are attorneys. I said that backwards, sorry. So to think we're top-heavy is just, it's just bluster. And these employees do deserve raises. And there are minimal raises in here, and last year no one got a raise. You know, this is the management team of the city. This is who guides the city and runs the city. And if you talk to any of the exempt employees, they're all overworked. Most of them carry 2 titles now and do more than one job. So to think we're top-heavy, when Rob said we're 99% union employees, he's correct. We are over 99% union employees. And so for any city manager to surround himself by a team that he thinks is going to get the job done for him and execute the vision of the council and the city manager is totally and 100% appropriate for someone that's sitting, in essence, the CEO of a $97 million operation. And to have that run by here 14 people, 4 of which are attorneys, is actually pretty amazing. So I know some of the exempt employees are actually here, and I just want to thank you for your work, and I apologize for sometimes being underappreciated. Yes, you can say that's right. Who's next? I see a hand over here. I'm sorry. Good evening. Name and address for the record.
Eileen Moore, Fulton, Long Beach. I moved here in June of 2016. And since that time, I've had my water bill increase, my home taxes increase, everything is increasing. I can't afford to live here anymore. And it's really on the fault of the decisions that are being made, the taxes, the increases, all the decisions that you guys make, you're making them on my back. You're making them on their backs. And if you really believe that you want to put me out of my home, I came here to enjoy Long Beach. I came here to think that this was going to be a great community. And I'm really shocked by what I see up here. The lack of transparency, the lack of working together, and just asking the residents of Long Beach to agree with your plans to increase our cost of living here. I don't expect an answer. I've been coming here for 3 years, and I'm just appalled by what's going on in this town. I should have stayed in Queens. I should have stayed in New York City. But I really thought I was coming for a better standard of living, and it's been a great disappointment. And it's all on you, because you're running this town, you're responsible for it. I can't do anything. All I can do is either pay or put my house up for sale and move out. So what do you suggest I do? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Richie Shu. Name and address for the record.
Rich Shu, Westland area. Is there a budget line for anticipated revenue from the courts on fines? Okay. Most of you know me, I've been working here for a while. Doing a job, whatever, some fines come in, whatever it is. It is a joke what is going on down there. The city can be taking in so much more money on a daily basis on fines, legit fines. Whether it's animal control, building, whatever. The workers are working, they're not getting the fines that it deserves. With that said, I'm hoping something can be worked out. I've spoken to numerous people about it before. Our lawyers down there, the ones that work for the city, do their due diligence and ask accordingly for what needs to be asked for and appropriately. The city's losing money down there. I really don't have much more to say on it. I just heard a couple of speakers up here before say that we're raising fines, this, that. It's not a case of raising. It's getting what is minimum fines, not knocking everything down to what it could or should or what it's really not. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? On the budget hearing? Okay. Anyone in the council have anything else to ask Christie while the budget hearing is still open? No? Okay. Seeing no hands, I close the hearing.
Hearing will continue at the next meeting.
Okay,
our second public hearing tonight is a local law amending subpart C of the related acts relating to the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding a local law to provide the tax levy limit established in general municipal law section 3C.
So, this is our annual ordinance regarding the tax cap override. The reason why this is necessary is it's really a function of our charter and the way it works. If the city council or affirmatively votes for this budget and it takes effect and includes a net increase, alternatively, if it does nothing and votes against this budget, then the proposed budget goes into effect by default. Either way, it has a proposed tax increase. The problem arises by virtue of the fact that if this proposed budget goes into effect one way or the other with that tax increase, it has 2 years in cap. We're obligated to collect that levy in full. So you collect the taxes, but you can't actually spend it. You have to put it in escrow account and then refund it to the taxpayers later on, which may sound great in theory, but it's not because you've completely blown up your budget at that point. You don't have the revenue to pay for your expenses. And that's why it's an absolutely indispensable item, no matter what the city council ultimately chooses to do. This does not preclude the city council from modifying this budget or effectuating a rise sheet. Still do all of those things for the sake of safety and in every reasonable precaution available to us. It is essential that we adopt this item.
Ms. Hightower, so there's a perception, and I think everyone has, that the tax cap is always 2%. We generally think of that, but actually the tax cap is on the tax levy, not on the individual taxpayer. So this year the formula has changed, so what's the tax levy percentage that would break the tax cap?
So the tax levy cap this year is 2% as far as the levy goes. Whereas the little-known piece of the levy is what's called the tax-based growth factor, and that is what allows you to increase taxes for items that come back on the tax roll, such as house, for people who double the size of their house, or if it was a vacant lot and now somebody built a house on it. So to the extent that you have new taxpayers or increased value in the taxable property, you're allowed to raise taxes to allow for those items. It's the only way for that long-term recovery revenue stream of growing your tax.
But those are to the rate to the taxpayer.
Everything relies on the levy.
On the overall levy, isn't it less than 1% or something? Or
No, the levy itself is 2%.
the levy is on?
Yes, and then you
That
have
changes or that's fixed?
No, that changes every year based on CPI. It's either 2% or rate of inflation, whichever is lower. So I believe the rate of inflation was over 2% this year, but it's still capped at 2%.
Okay, so 2% of the tax levy equates to what for rate there?
It depends on which one you're talking about, but in this fiscal year, a 2% rate, a 2% increase on the tax levy actually would have resulted in an increase in the tax rate because of the increase in the taxable value of the city.
Does anyone else from the council have any questions about tax cap? Nope. Okay, seeing no hands, there's one, Mr. Lester.
You gotta ask, otherwise you won't know what. I'm not clear on something. The tax cap has to be pierced, I understand that. But you said basically if the city council doesn't do any voting, then the tax rate automatically goes into effect, which is what happened at the 25% in 2006. And
The proposed budget, the proposed budget goes into
the proposed budget,
with the tax increase.
yes, even if you don't pierce the tax cap, that goes into effect.
That's correct.
And then you have to collect the money, but you can't spend it.
Correct.
I have an idea. Why don't you change the law, the city council part that says if you don't vote, it goes into effect? That's like a ridiculous law. I've proposed that for years. Why don't you change it?
This is in relation to the tax cap.
Because what?
I said, we're talking about the tax cap now.
That's exactly what he was talking about. The tax cap in relation to the law, the city council, the city charter. That's exactly what he said. Why didn't he change it? Definitely.
Mr. Dean?
John Dean, Long Beach, New York, and I was taken back a little bit when it was said that you don't accept the budget, that they have to take this proposed budget and use it. Now, knowing that's the law, what incentive do you have to actually come in with a budget lower than last year? Knowing that if you come up higher this year, we're stuck. You know what I mean? There's no incentive to decrease the budget. There's no incentive to increase controls to lower costs. There's no incentive to reduce staffing. You know, anybody that has a person that's employed, you can take
that number, then I can project that in the next 40 years, what that parcel's gonna cost, based on your contracts. You should have a 40-year budget. If you've got a 90% budget based on personnel, you can do a 40-year budget in 2 seconds. You know, you're proposing a budget, this should be done 6 months ago, so that it can be fine-tuned when we're at the butchering hour, which is where we are right now. I say vote no.
Thank you. Mr. Pinto? This is directly related to the tax cap.
Good evening, Sam Pinto, Long Beach. Question on the tax cap. What is the number that we would not, whatever formula you're utilizing, what is the number that, of the tax levy increase that would not be piercing the tax cap?
3.51%.
3.51%, and that factors through a formula with New York State's comptroller, whereas they take pilot money and all this other stuff, and they put it together, you plug it in, and then it gives us a number. So if our tax levy increase stays below 3.5%, we will then not pierce the tax cap. This is just for the operating budget in general, right? Every annual operating budget?
Right, the water and sewer funds do not have property taxes, this is just the general fund.
So the revenues included in the water and sewer does not account for the increase in tax levy.
No, because they're not taxes, they're considered user charge.
What about like capital bond stuff, a long-term bond, is that included?
Again, only the debt service, so only the annual debt service related to the capital,
So debt service would be the interest, or,
both principal and interest.
so how does it work with us bonding? Is that included or not included?
There wouldn't be any costs in next year's budget related to that bonding, because we would borrow it in the next fiscal year and pay the first interest payment of the following fiscal year.
So I'm just trying to figure out, if we didn't bond this money, how would it affect the tax levy? And also, is it included within the formula by the New York State Comptroller's Office for us to actually, because bonding is normally done for either capital improvements or large plans over a succession of years, payments, not utilized normally for maintaining an operating budget.
There's a section of the New York State local finance law that specifically allows City of Long Beach to borrow separation payments over a longer term.
And
Like capital.
to be included in the operating budget.
Where the bonding is where the expenses are. So because the expenses are in the operating budget, the bonding is in the operating budget. Where the capital funds, the capital is concerned the capital budget, so that's where the bonding is, so that's why you don't see bonding in the operating budget. If you give me a second, I'll show you the property. It would be an additional 4.3% property tax increase to not bond separation payments next year.
But those separation payments are not going to be over 1 year, they're going to be over 3 or 5 years, correct?
No, what's in the budget is next year's payments.
So we're actually at a 11% realistically increase in tax levy? Or no? Just trying to figure out.
I don't
No? Okay, so 3.5 is the magic number, right? So not pierce the cap, and we're exceeding it as of now. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on the tax cap? Anyone from the council have any other questions or any questions? Nope. Okay. Close the hearing.
Okay, on to the regular calendar. Item 1 is the local law amending subpart C of related acts related to the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding local law to override the tax levy limit established in general municipal law 36, New Jersey, to cover this item already. Item 2 is a resolution establishing base proportions in accordance with provisions of Article 19 of the real property tax law.
Okay, I'll ask our tax assessors to come up. I think we just have deja vu, we just did this.
Yes, good evening.
This is Ray Flammer.
Ray Flammer, tax assessor. This is the adjusted base proportions for the 19-20 tax year. A few months ago, we passed it for the 18-19. The reason this is going to be the earliest we've ever passed it, because we have state authorization to go with 1% adjusted base proportions. Base proportions are how we split the tax levy pie between homestead and non-homestead classes. It's a complicated calculation that is overseen by the New York State Office of Real Property Tax Services. So they will
check my math and everything, so. Anyone for the council have any questions?
Yeah, just a quick question. You just did this on March 5th of last year.
Yes.
If I'm correct, we're shifting slightly away from homestead and towards non-homestead.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay,
It's about a 2% shift. The reason why is because the change of assessment, was about 2%.
okay, thank you.
Sure. Does anyone from the public have any questions? Seeing no hands, next item.
Item three is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of ordinance to amend the code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach regarding water, and water distribution. Signage publication only, and hearing to be held May 21st at 7 p.m. Item four is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of the local law amending the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding sewer rights. Signage publication only, and hearing will be held May 21st at 7 p.m. On to the vote. Item one is a local law amending subpart C of related acts relating to the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding a local law to override tax levy money established in general municipal law section 3C. Please move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second. Lori, Councilmember Benda.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
President Aramo.
Yes.
Item two is a resolution establishing base proportions in accordance with the provisions of Article 19 of the real property tax law. Just move the adoption of this item. Second. Excuse me, voting. Councilmember Benda.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
President Aramo. Item three is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of an ordinance to amend the code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach regarding water and water distribution. Who would just move the adoption of this item? Second. Voting, Councilmember Benda.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
President Aramo.
Yes.
Finally, item four is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of a local law amending the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding sewer rights. Just move the adoption of this item. Second. Voting, Councilmember Benda.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
Vice President Diamond. And President Aramo.
Yes.
City manager's monthly personnel report has been filed by the city clerk. Will make a motion to close the meeting. Second. Voting, Councilmember Benda.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
President Aramo.
Okay, now we're going to go to welfare. Ms. Hightower, I'd like to thank you. We have council and residents, I thank you for being here. 3 minutes of uninterrupted time. John McNally. Maybe Ryan was just curious, he didn't shuffle because I was first in personal, so. John McNally, 613 West Walnut Street. I don't really know what to do, it's sort of comical at this stage of the game. This is the only elected body that I've ever witnessed that, at least since 2012, we're going on 6, 7 years, has not held a public working meeting, or its general deliberations or discussions on business impacting the public in public. The acting city manager / corporation counsel at Castici is, serving his client to counsel who obviously doesn't want to have these discussions in public, twisting himself into a pretzel, figuratively speaking. I will say I do not appreciate his characterization of my appeal to the Committee on Open Government, saying that he either omitted or intentionally mischaracterized, thus resulting in an advisory opinion that does not address or capture the complexities, when he then proceeded to do just that and bring up issues that were never mentioned or discussed. as part of the last meeting that we were at, where I raised this issue. The fact of the matter is you were elected public officials. You were supposed to be doing your business in public, that you're seemingly unwilling to do so. It's an abdication of your responsibility, and I don't know why you signed up for these jobs if you were not willing to have these difficult conversations in a public setting. It's the definition of your jobs. It is the entire rationale behind the open meeting laws, is that we don't just get to see your final decision, but that we get to witness. We don't get to comment on it. It's a working meeting. We can't comment. We just get to observe. But that we also, the open meeting laws exist so that we can witness the deliberative process and understand your logic into how you come to the conclusions you come to. And your ongoing reluctance. I've been advocating for this for 3 years. Initially, very nicely coming and going, I think it would be a really good idea if you guys had public open working meetings. It's a good process. I think it would end up with better decisions. I'm not here trying to pinpoint any of you. This has nothing about elections. I think a budget is a good inflection point upon which to force this issue. But I am dumbfounded that you guys are not willing to move forward with the most basic practice of our democracy. It's profoundly disappointing, all of you. That's it. Karen McGinnis.
Karen McGinnis, 102 Pennsylvania Avenue. I just want to comment that hiring CMA is a good step, but it does not mean that each city council member is not responsible to actually go through this entire budget, to understand it, and to ask questions. For example, the question that I asked earlier, has each city council member received the schedule which lists the $1.6 million payouts in this 2020 budget, in this 1920 budget? Have they? Have you? For the next year's budget, it's $1.63 million for employee termination payouts. Has each of the city council members received that so they can understand what's going on for next year? So they don't know.
Not yet, but they will.
They will, okay. Christie, Ms. Hightower in the last budget meeting, last meeting on May 1st said that there is going to be a deficit in the current year, fiscal year. That means you will have missed budget. That means you're over budget. That means you're lowering the general fund balance. Do the council members have that projection so that they know how we blew the budget this year? Do they have that yet? So when I come up here, I'm advocating for my elected officials to have the information they need to make responsible decisions. You're elected, you have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure you know what's in this budget. Each one of you, and you can't just pass it off to CMA now or to Rob. It's up to you, each of you, to understand it. And if my city council member that I vote for asks for information, they should get it. I don't care if they're Republican, Democrat, green or blue. If they have the right to ask for anything, and they should get it. And they shouldn't have to beg for it, or have people come up here and scream at you for it. If they got the information they need to make informed decisions, it wouldn't be so tenuous every freaking meeting. Thanks.
Ms. Cheston? She left. Mr. Dean?
Thank you again. I'm here to talk again about the traffic, lack of traffic controls on West Park from New York Avenue to Nevada. We're waiting for Nassau County to do a study
Anybody that's seen the Newsday recently knows that they've been doing study and they're backlogged, so I don't expect anything soon. This article also points out that while they're doing these studies, they're liable because they know there's a problem. What does that make us? Not liable? I think it makes us liable. I've been told that West Park Avenue is the city of Long Beach owned and controlled street. We can do what we want to do on that street. We can put signs up there, like don't block the intersection, yield to pedestrian, and we can even put stop signs up there. Let's have a couple of comments. I've been told that you can't have crosswalk indicators when you don't have permanent traffic control. Yet on West Penn and New York Avenue, there are crosswalk indicators and there's no permanent traffic control. I've been told that you can't mix stop signs and traffic lights. But on New York Avenue and West Hollow, there's a stop sign and there's two traffic lights on either side of it. There's traffic lights and stop signs mixed on Beach Street. Get the whole length of it. There's either traffic, there's either stop signs and traffic, you have stop signs and traffic lines and lights mixed on every block that crosses Long Beach Road. All we're doing is asking for parity for West Park, the people that live on and near West Park Avenue, to have the same safety things that every other street in Long Beach has. Just at every major intersection, they have directional traffic control for every direction, whether it's a one-way street or a two-way street, so that people can cross. When are we going to make it safe for those people that live there in the West End? I can tell you that I've lost thousands of dollars due to the damage to my house, my property, and my cars. What are we waiting for? Somebody to get killed? I just don't get it. Put the signs. 7.9% of people put little signs up.
Thank you. Mr. Larson?
Very much, sorry to keep beating the dead horse, but I'm so puzzled by this budget. How are you guys anticipating 700,000 more in beach revenue than the prior year? You can wait to answer those. Look, speaking about answering questions, so it does kind of bother me. Every week, people get up here and ask questions, and we ask questions about the budget, and Eddie asks a bunch of questions, and I ask a bunch of questions, Jay asks a bunch of questions, and we never get answers. And the whole idea of this was we were going to ask questions, and then the next week or 2 weeks later, we'd get the answers. But the answers never seem to come. But I guess we're just going to keep trying and keep asking questions. But, you know, I look at this budget and I see that you're projecting 700,000 more in beach revenue. Now, if that doesn't appear magically, you know, I guess we've got a bond, I don't know. I'm also seeing the city comptroller, and I'm sure there's a good reason for this, but it's gone up almost $70,000. But that's on top of that, we have 144,000 now with the CMA people that are doing the job of the comptroller. We don't even have a comptroller. I don't get that, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. Then I look at building repairs, and I guess this is one of the things that really bothers me, because you don't spend, obviously you don't spend enough, because things, you know, when you're talking about fixing the ice arena, I think you put $6,000 for building repairs, the rec $5,000. The building repairs on the municipal building, it was requested 600,000, but somehow you're gonna do that on 325,000. I don't get it. Repairs are the most important part. It's like the people I meet in my office who say, well, I can't afford to put oil in the car. You know, guess what happens? But then I look at something like the temporary salaries in the central administration. It was requested 73,000. Proposed 95,000. How do you go when a department says we need 73, you turn around and you tell the department, no, you get 95,000. It just doesn't make sense to me. All of these things I look at and this is one that I really don't get. Beach maintenance asked for $3.3 million for beach maintenance. And I'm sure there's a reason for it. But you gave 2.4. There's a big disconnect when somebody asks, when a department asks for something and a third, almost a third of what they asked for is cut. Either the department's hot or, you know, something's not right here. I don't get it. And of course, we ask these questions and, I guess the 3 minutes is up. Thank you.
No, I'm gonna focus mostly on beach revenue, because that is the big one, that's a fair question. As far as the beach maintenance budget, that was a topic of some acrimony this year. We're working our way through those issues and hope to improve upon that process next year. With respect to the beach revenue, that is something I do want to discuss, because the $700,000, that was basically a shortfall in last year's budget, 500,000 of which was based on beach pass sales, and 200 of which came from the LAR combo passes that we sold. So what?
Oh, no, Rob, you said you were.
Mr. Lester, please let him finish. Please let him finish, Mr. Lester.
So I'm aware of the 700,000, and we've detailed it, we've itemized it, we've analyzed this every which way and sideways, and this is a very important part of this budget. So I think that's what I'm saying. I think it's a fair question. And we've taken a lot of steps to proactively address that. The first and foremost of which is the development of a comprehensive marketing plan to advertise the beach this year, which I'm going to call Gortec in a moment to discuss. But in terms of the details of that marketing plan, there is some reliance, to be totally honest, on luck in terms of the weather. We've had absolutely awful weather for the last 2 summers, and we are relying on the low averages to an extent. But where they say luck is when opportunity needs preparation, that's why we're doing this marketing plan. In addition, we have an agreement with the Long Island Railroad to help boost the combo pass sales. They are going to be, my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we have an agreement whereby they're going to be posting something on subway entrances all over Manhattan, basically for free, advertising our beach. And that's in the interest of selling combo passes because they can cut it. In addition, we are in the process of trying to work out a separate arrangement with Altice for stops on Route 12. I think we'll get close to advertise the beach this summer, and there's in addition to a number of other initiatives, we'll be going to just briefly run through a few.
You can understand. Remember when Mr. Tadney said we're up $1 million this year? You remember that. You were here. That's why I get upset.
Right, I'm just here to try to work through where we are now.
So, in terms of marketing and communications, there are essentially, I actually communicated to the council about this earlier today. There are essentially 3 different areas of media coverage, or of media. So there's owned media, which is items that we post on our website or on our social media pages. Those are articles, press releases, things of that nature. There is earned media, which is what I've been responsible for the past 7 years, whatever it would be. Articles in Newsday, we have ABC here, Good Day New York, there's a show live from Long Beach. And the other one is paid media, which we have not done a lot of. I'm actually a believer that earned media is the best, if you get that, but it doesn't always work that way. So with the paid media this year, we're fortunate that we're going to have a $50,000 marketing plan, both beach, not our businesses, that is going to initiate in the coming days with a digital campaign that's including YouTube, pre-roll, Facebook, Instagram, various social channels, probably some web banner, as we're still still finalizing some of the details of that, but it's gonna start rolling out in May. And then we shift to a television component in June, starting around June 10th, it's gonna run through the end of June and into July. And these commercials are gonna be geo-targeted, they're gonna be targeted, and the online can be targeted even better because various, I'm gonna get too into the weeds on this, but there are ways that you can determine who you would want to target to come to the beach based on their web usage. We're gonna be on Altice, we're gonna be on Fios, we're gonna be on various platforms that are not available here locally, maybe in Queens or Rockaway or other areas that we deem potential targets for beachgoers. And I think, very, very simply put, if you're in this general area and you're somebody who might want to come to Long Beach, you're going to know that we're open for business. If you're watching the Met game or the Yankee game, there's going to be a commercial about Long Beach. It's going to spotlight us, it's going to put us in a positive light. And at the same time, we're going to continue to push hard for all the other channels we've done. We just got a great feature in the Newsday magazine last week. The New York Times did a big story about our real estate market last month. We're I don't want to put the cat out of the bag, but we're working on a number of different initiatives. As Rob said, Rob was in the preparation of these opportunities. It was my quote in my high school yearbook. We need good weather this summer. We need a perfect storm, not the type of a superstorm like Sandy, but like good weather, good advertising, good articles, positive stories about the city of Long Beach. And I think that we're well on our way. Just looking at our plans that we have, and I'll send something to the council, maybe put something online in the coming days once we have it refined, we finalize what we're going to say. But I believe that the beach revenue will be better this year.
Thank you. I just have,
All right, just a quick question. You can sit down. It's
Oh, okay.
specific to you.
No problem.
So it goes to Mr. Leslie's point about, so we know we're somewhat dependent on beach revenues, obviously. And also to the point with the proposed versus asked on some of these. If we start seeing, whether it's weather-related to beach revenue or labor costs from whatever, overtime, what kind of controls are we gonna be putting in place when we start seeing variances growing from budget?
Are we talking about beach revenue or?
Well, if we see beach revenue starts coming in, bad weather, so we see beach revenues falling below expectations, or the overtime costs are exceeding expectations, diverse that. We haven't been good in the past at putting controls in place. What are we gonna change now?
Well, I think Commissioner Tackett, with respect to overtime, in particular, Commissioner Tackett did start a new policy last year that we're looking to maintain where we found it sort of a unique way to ensure that division heads are not just assigning overtime in a sort of scattershot way, but rather as the need arises. And we found a way to make division heads specifically accountable. And it arises under the civil service law, actually. So when they are assigned overtime that they shouldn't be, we have the ability to recoup that from division heads. That practice started last year. We found it had it produced a desired effect, is what I'm trying to say. And we are raising overtime, I think it was $140,000 this year. So we're trying to move it from both sides, to the extent we can. Obviously, it is a work in progress, to be perfectly honest with you. In terms of beach revenue and the weather in particular, that's something that is going to require some adjustments to a marketing plan on the fly. And that is something I'm working on right now with the marketing team, also to figure out if we're not getting the weather we want, how do we make those adjustments? How do we make that course correction mid-year in the budget? We haven't worked out all the details yet, but we have discussed the preliminary ideas, and there are going to be more things to come.
could you just answer, so Mr. Lester mentioned that the control line in temporary salaries was up 70,000. One thing I did want to correct is, he did say that CMA is doing the work of the control, and that's not people. It's actually a completely different skill set, or can you speak to that $70,000?
I actually can't. I don't want to, I don't want to
speculate right now, but I will answer the question.
Ms. Blanchett? Session?
Eileen Hessian, Long Beach. Someone mentioned those small fines that might bring in a little bit of money. I just want to take a trip back to last fall where we were sued by two people riding bikes. One of them, I think, was a woman who was riding in the business district and she fell and hurt herself and she sued us for a substantial amount. I don't remember if it was 30,000 or 100,000 or what it was, but we voted on it and she got it. And I came up and said, there are signs in the business district that you're not allowed to ride bikes up there. And I was told, no, there are no signs up there. Well, there are signs up there. So if you're gonna be doing these fines, you better look and read the signs and figure out what you're finding and, you know, which legal team is in charge of knowing what's going on. I really came up here though, because last week I asked a few questions and I said, you know, I didn't expect answers last week. But these are all pretty much simple yes or no. They're the same questions I asked last week, and now you've all had time to think about them, so I hope you have an answer. The first one was that some of the people who work for Long Beach were getting youth and family services and not paying their bills. Has the council or has anyone done anything about collecting that money or making sure that youth and family services is collecting their bills, or has anything been done on that?
No, not yet. That's something that I will definitely look into after the budget cycle is complete.
Okay, thank you. The separation payments, I know they're being audited, but has anybody on the council or Mr. Agostisi done anything about looking into whether the math was done correctly on those? Because if the math was done wrong on those, then it might have been done wrong on the ones we just bonded for and the 1.7 million or whatever it is for next year. Have we looked into that aside from, or I should say you, aside from the auditing that's going on?
With respect to separation pay?
Yes.
In terms of last week's meeting, I believe everybody did the math. No, just leave it at that. But there was an extensive review of all the documents.
Of all the documents that were already paid and the ones that.
I'm talking about this past year, the separation pay and the supplement that we just did the last council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Now that we're so messed up, will you now declare a moratorium on hiring and raises over what is already contractual? More to stop hiring unnecessary hires.
Like,
Well, I don't speak about personnel, but if you are hiring people, there's a very large list, and I understand that the beach needs to hire people, and that's probably why that list is so long this time. But it seems like every month or every 2 weeks, there's a lot of people being hired, and also some people are getting raises.
that's the ballooning of the part-time staff that occurs every summer.
I'm not talking about this one in particular, I'm talking about, have you looked into who is taking cars home and using them as personal vehicles?
I have not yet, I can't tell you, but
That would be good.
the subject of mandatory negotiation.
Good, because we have a lot of cars here.
That's your time this session.
Okay.
Thank you. I
yeah.
just.
Okay, you know, these are the questions you were gonna answer.
The fines that you were talking about were spoken about earlier, I just want
Yeah.
to clarify that, I think I understand what, Mr. Shu was talking about. He was talking about, someone gets a fine, it says a minimum of X amount of dollars.
I know,
They
I know,
record
but
it, and then the
I
court
thought this was
makes
related.
it $20. So I think that's what Mr. Shu was referring to, is that the massive decrease in fines, that are, end up being, given or.
I was actually not referring to Mr. Shu, but somebody, I think Mr. Agostisi said that in some, maybe it was in the program, that we're going to.
And I think that's what he was talking about.
Yeah, so I'm saying aside from the $20 fine, we should look into people who sue us for $100,000 and make sure that they're reading the
Some
signs.
of the fines that were not $20, the building department fines, and all those would be very, very high.
Because there's a lot of ways you could be bringing money in.
Yeah.
A lot of ways.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Pinto. Mr.
comment on the new, I know you don't say it's not the new rule, but I'm gonna call it the new rule, new 3-minute rule, the one that was effective in January. It's my observation that since the implementation of this rule, that hundreds of questions have gone unanswered. I'd like to know why, and I'd like to suggest that this just proves that that rule was developed and implemented as a mechanism to avoid answering the public's questions. Last week, I believe, 2 weeks ago, I asked whether or not Mr. Agassiz had made any payments of any kind to the city. We still haven't gotten an answer to that. It's pretty straightforward, it's a yes or it's a no. The city's refusal to answer that question, in my mind, strongly infers that there may have been some payments, that those payments may have been improper. I also asked the council at the last meeting to direct Mr. Agassiz to provide a copy of his employment agreement that he entered into with the city first in December of 2016, and then has subsequently been amended. I put you guys on notice that Mr. Agassiz, while the city's lawyer, induced his client, that's you guys, to enter into an illegal agreement. He then concealed the existence of the agreement and still refuses to provide it, despite there being numerous proper FOIL requests having been made for it. Can the council explain its inaction to this issue? And if Mr. Agassiz says that he hasn't entered into an illegal agreement, I'm falsely accusing him, he's certainly welcome to sue me over that accusation.
Thank you, Mr. Gosler. That's it for this evening. Thank you everyone for coming. Please get home safe.